But you know what is copyright free? Your own mind. So I can say John Fogerty center field, and you can start hearing that little guitar lick, and you can automatically think baseball.
Baseball.
So I specifically wanted, what was that?
I don't know. It was I was doing a thing. It's Friday. It's been a long week.
It's been a rough week.
Please cut that.
No, that's the intro.
No.
That's the intro.
No.
Welcome to Mystopian, the podcast that evaluates the past deeply inaccurate predictions about the future that we now live in. Because why have comically large logos on jerseys when you can have tragically large sponsor patches? But I am getting ahead of myself. I am your host, Patrick, joined here by my co-host,
Alex.
And today, Alexandria, I have been inspired.
Inspired?
I have been inspired by you.
By moi?
In our last episode, you talked to me about men's fashion.
I did. That is correct. 21st century men's fashion.
And I also want to talk about some manly clothes.
Okay, copycat.
Manly clothes of a sort. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I want to talk baseball. And specifically, I want to talk about a few 1990s promotions called the Turn Ahead the Clock games, where they predicted the future of baseball jerseys.
Ooh, fun.
I want to go over the history of those promotions and compare them with the actual current trends in baseball to see how they did. And I'm going to end with some of, and this is a first for the Mystopian podcast, some of my own predictions.
You're going to make some predictions, some bold predictions about the future?
And Alex, let me tell you, my predictions are dystopian.
Oh no. Dystopian for baseball or dystopian for America?
What's the difference, Alex?
You know what? I got nothing against that. I got nothing to say.
But first, I want to set the stage for some overall trends in baseball uniforms. I want to lay the foundation of this.
Okay.
So baseball has a tendency to be conservative.
How do you mean when you say conservative?
Pretty much in every sort of sense. If you follow if you follow the majority of players on Twitter, it can be conservative in one way, but I'm more talking about conservative in that they resist change.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Jerseys tend to be pretty standardized. You have home jerseys that are white with the team name on the front. You've got road jerseys that are gray with the team city on the front. Basically, every single team has had that for years, 100 years.
Sure. I mean, if you look at really old black and white photos of original baseball, they don't really look different. It's very different from, say, football, which has undergone some pretty extensive changes to their uniforms.
Exactly. Now, there was some experimentation, so I want to go ahead and address that. For example, in the 1950s, some teams, when they began playing night games, started to play around with satin jerseys.
Do you mean satin like pajamas? Like it's at night, so we're in our gym jams playing baseball?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. But that was very much an outlier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we get to the late 60s, in the early 1970s, there's a few other experiments that go on. The Oakland Athletics shock baseball by wearing white cleats.
Ooh.
Even with the road jerseys, that was their look. They had white cleats. Most people wore black cleats. Now, there was lots of experimentation in the 1970s wearing bright colored uniforms. So I'm going to show you a lot of, real quickly, some 70s uniforms. Here we have the Athletics. They have yellow pullovers.
Really positive, happy vibes.
They also played with green pullovers. We have the Pirates. They have full yellow jerseys. Cleveland here has all red jerseys, and the Orioles have all orange jerseys.
There's your Orioles.
My Orioles. You can see the Astros.
I love that shirt. I want that. Can I get that somewhere?
Absolutely. They call this the Tequila Sunrise jersey because of the layering of the colors.
I really like that.
Chicago even played in shorts.
Oh, whoa. That's baseball?
That's baseball right there.
They look like they're, I don't know, they look like they're rugby players. I would never have assumed if you just showed me this picture that this was of a baseball game. Wow.
So what is your overall reaction to the 70s and this bright baseball trend?
They're so fun. This is really cool and weird and funky, and I love the bright primary colors. It makes it seem all happy. It's way more interesting to me than just the plain white, stereotypical baseball uniform with like the pinstripes going on. This is fun. This is fun baseball.
Yeah, so lots of baseball guys hate this.
Okay. Of course. The thing that I like, everybody else hates.
This will be something I return to a couple of times, but again, it's very conservative. It resists change, but people, especially who play baseball, are very resistant to the idea that anything might make them seem less serious.
Okay, so the players themselves wearing these outfits, wearing these uniforms, really hated them?
They certainly have huge fan bases within fandom, but I would not argue that overall within baseball, that most of these are super popular.
Honestly, the longer I stare at these shorts and just revealing these manly quads, why would you not want to show off your quad god self? This is fantastic. With the little knee-high socks.
I don't even think the shorts made it the entire season before they went back to pants. They felt ridiculous in these shorts.
Oh, man. I am so sorry that you guys are really wrong, because that is amazing.
As we get onto the 70s, the 80s is very much a return to the conservatism.
Boo. 80s. Wait, the 80s? With conservatism in the way that they look and dress? That is not what I picture with the 80s. 80s is all like excess and big and shorty shorts and lots of hairspray and perms.
I don't think a lot of athletes wear hairspray and perms. I'm not saying no athletes. I'm saying not a lot of athletes.
But I'm saying like 80s in terms of style and fashion is always known for being outrageous and being very out there. 70s, if anything, is the more understated between the two in terms of fashion styles.
When it comes to baseball, the 80s is absolutely a retreat from the 70s. It's not a full retreat yet. One thing that's very interesting about the 80s is that instead of having road grays, a huge number of teams start to adopt road baby blues.
Okay. Like a Carolina blue?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Little robin's egg blue as their away uniforms. But most of these teams really do start to dial back some of these bright colors. And when you get to the 90s, we are going back to full retro mode, which is where our story kind of picks back up. Before we can get to turn ahead the clock, we need to turn back the clock. What do you think a turn back the clock game would look like?
Oh, I assume that that's retro night. That's taking it back to whatever, the 30s, the 40s, maybe the 50s, and it's all about nostalgia and the way baseball used to be.
You are exactly right, except it went back even further.
Ooh, really?
So the very first turn back the clock night was in 1990.
Okay.
And the Chicago White Sox were playing in the last season of Comiskey Park. So they decided to wear jerseys that commemorated the last year they won any type of title. They've won one since then, but it had been a long time.
Sure.
In 1990. Going back to 1917.
Oh, wow.
You
don't really see many retro nights going back pre-20s.
I mean, baseball is one of those things that can do that. So I'm going to show you a little video here. We're not going to have any sound, so we can talk over this. So what do you see here? Not just the players, but what do you see here in the stands?
Oh, it's like a little concession stand vendor guy. Get your popcorn, your hot dogs. He's got like the red vest and like the Knickerbocker hat.
Yeah, when the White Sox did this promotion, and this is the very first time this promotion had ever been done, they went all out. They did general admission tickets for 50 cents.
Oh.
The ushers wore period-specific costumes. You can see, as we watch this, there are people in the crowd who have straw hats and bowler hats.
Oh, this is amazing. Were they giving these out as people were coming in, or did people, just bring these?
I think those guys just brought them. They coordinated that themselves.
That's fantastic. And they have mustaches. I love that.
It's great. The only real disappointment is that the opposing team, which I believe is the Brewers...
Oh, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but there is a woman in full early 1900s dress with the full button up long sleeve. She's got a hat. That is amazing.
It's gorgeous. It's an amazing promotion. The only disappointment is that the Brewers didn't take part. They wore their normal ass jerseys.
Boo, boring.
This was a hugely successful promotion. The next year, the Phillies and the Reds also did turn back the clock games, except this time both teams would participate. In the 90s, we're getting to where baseball is just very much in a retro mood. 1992, Camden Yards opens, where the Orioles play, and it is a retro downtown park, which was very different from the suburban big round multi-purpose donuts that baseball had built in most places in the 1950s and 60s. 1994, Ken Burns' baseball airs, which, as you know, is my favorite thing to fall asleep to if I'm having a problem falling asleep. I both love it and it's boring, and I love it.
I would be curious to see the number of watch hours you have technically logged with that one show.
Because it'll just keep running.
Yeah.
I'll wake up and it's still going. But turn back the clock games really do favor the teams with deep histories.
That's true. What do you do about the teams that are newer? Are they trying to do a fake nostalgia thing, or do they have to go back to ye old days of the 80s?
For some newer teams, yes. These days, they do fake nostalgia. Those Tequila Sunrise jerseys I was telling you about, the Tampa Bay Rays, who did not exist in the 70s, have their own beautiful faux backs that look like that.
Did you just say faux back?
Oh, yeah, that's the term for it.
Oh, that's amazing. I've never heard that term before.
There you go.
Faux back. I'm definitely going to use faux back when I'm talking about all the 90s nostalgia stuff that is currently populating stores like Forever 21 and H&M that all of our students wear.
So in some ways, this seems obvious. If you can turn back the clock, you can turn ahead the clock. But in 1998, the head of marketing for the Seattle Mariners, a guy named Kevin Martinez, came up with this idea that jerseys don't have to represent the past, they could represent the future.
Love it.
Now, his vision is specifically for the 2027 season.
Okay.
So it's our near future. Now, for the purposes of our podcast, we normally want to handle predictions that we can clearly evaluate because the time that is being predicted has passed.
Right.
For this, that hasn't come to happen yet. So who knows? Except I know this is not going to be it.
Maybe in 4 years' time, we can revisit this.
One of the great things about the initial promotion, it is just one team running this promotion, just one guy's idea. He goes to the best player on the Mariners, a man named Ken Griffey Jr. And Ken
I know that name.
Oh, cool. This is one of those things where you are younger than me, and you certainly didn't follow baseball in the 90s, and so I don't know what you know, and I absolutely don't want to be insulting, but I also don't want to assume anything.
No, I am familiar with Ken Griffey Jr. Could not tell you what position he played, but I am familiar with him. He is a baseball player. I could answer that trivia question.
He's a future Hall of Famer at this point, and he loved the idea. And I think part of the reason why the initial promo is going to go over so well is because it very much ties together Ken Griffey Jr.'s natural charisma and his just love of the idea sells it. He even offered up some specific things that he would like to see to Martinez, and they incorporated them.
Within the design of the outfits or the whole night?
The design of the jerseys. So one thing that they did is they took the team colors. I have here just so you can see the team colors of the Mariners at the time. It's kind of a dark blue and a teal, etc. Griffey wanted something different. He wanted to have crimson, black, and silver jerseys.
Crimson, black, and silver. Okay. I don't normally associate red and silver together. You've got like a warm color and a cool color kind of thing going on, but I'm willing to suspend my judgment there. Maybe, the vision that he had in his head was something really super cool.
I think, I'll get to this. I think the silver is to make it look a little bit more futuristic.
Oh, like chrome? Like everything in the future is chrome?
And I think he just liked crimson and black. He also suggested the team wear their jerseys untucked and the guys play with their caps backwards.
Oh, yeah, because we gotta look cool.
Well, this very much comes from Ken Griffey Jr.'s specific, more casual style. This is a thing that he did when he came out for batting practice. He would have his jersey untucked. He'd have his cap backwards, and kids loved it. But you know who hated it? Old men of baseball.
Sure. He's a disgrace to the sport. He's embarrassing the noble name of baseball. I read those tweets.
The then Yankees manager, Buck Showalter, criticized Jr. for coming out dressed in this way. He said, "To me, that's a lack of respect for the game."
A lack of respect for the game. Classic.
All right, so I'm going to show you the jerseys, and let's get your reaction.
Okay. So the helmets, that's the silver. Like they got silver helmets. They do look like something you would pick up at a Halloween Express as a baseball player. Like it looks like somebody just spray painted helmets.
I'm actually fairly sure that's exactly what happened.
Okay.
It is known that Ken Griffey Jr. brought out cans of silver spray paint and was spraying guys' cleats and their gloves just in the dugout.
Oh, yeah, I see. So we got some silver-looking cleats here. We have varying levels of suns out, guns out. Do they have like really wide armhole openings?
Yeah, they were cutting out the sleeves so that they could play with their arms out.
Okay. I don't hate the color combo as much as I thought that I would. It is a little weird to me. And the logo itself is kind of cool. Like, you've got the compass of the Mariners, and it's really big as opposed to just this kind of little subtle thing on the shoulder, which they normally have. I do like it. It's kind of like off-center. So, this is by far not my favorite baseball uniform I've ever seen, but I don't hate this quite as much as I thought that I would.
Also, the Royals participated as well, and they got futuristic jerseys. Now, they didn't go as far out for them because this was a Mariners home production. They asked the Royals if we can do futuristic jerseys for you as well. They agreed. So I'm going to show you what they came up with.
Oh, I hate that so much more. That's so much worse. It's shiny. It looks like, okay, so when we're at school and they have the little like mesh jerseys, things that you've got to put on to signify what team you're on in PE.
The penny jerseys.
The penny jerseys, that's exactly what it looks like this dude has on. That he's just slipped this fake jersey on over his real jersey.
It does look cheap.
Also, blue and yellow are a pretty classic combination, but there's something about the tone of that yellow, and I can't tell if it's because of the quality of the recording or what, but that yellow tone is way off for that blue tone, and the colors clash instead of harmonizing.
So you can see the Kansas City jerseys normally don't have a lot of gold. So one of the big aspects of the futuristic version of the Royals uniforms is that it would be lots of gold.
Both of them are really leaning into the metallic colors with it.
Does metallic seem very futuristic to you?
I mean, not inherently, no, but I do think of chrome. I don't know why I think of everything being chrome plated. Maybe it's just that one specific SpongeBob episode that I remember where they go to the future. But everything is just chrome. Maybe that's back to like some retro futurism kind of things. But gold and silver are not necessarily the metals I would associate with the future. Those are kind of older ones. I would associate that with like Christopher Columbus before I would associate that with that's 1492. That's not really 2092.
Yeah, and I don't really get the tilting of the logos personally. You can see the Royals logo is tilted on the batting helmet, and the Mariners logo is tilted on their jerseys.
Yeah, the Mariners logo, it didn't bother me because it's a compass and it's kind of tilted.
Compasses are tilted on maps.
Sure, that makes sense to me. But the one that's on the Royals helmet, it looks like it was just misprinted. Like somebody had a big stamp and they just slipped at the last minute.
Some other parts of the game, because they went all out, the umpires wore silver metallic shirts. They renamed the Kingdome, where the Mariners played that night, to the Biodome.
Ooh. Was this before or after Biodome?
Do the research. Biodome, the movie, was released in 1996, so it is after.
Oh, okay.
The first pitch was delivered by James Doohan, Scotty from Star Trek.
Ow! Beam me up.
And he was delivered to the field in a DeLorean.
Amazing. I am shocked that they let them put a DeLorean on the baseball field. I know they don't even like you walking in your normal person shoes on a baseball field, and you're telling me that they parked a car on it?
Well, they don't like you in your person shoes on grass. We're in the Kingdome, baby. It's all AstroTurf.
Oh, that's boring.
Also, they drove it out with the doors up. I guess so you could see him, but it looks really weird to drive that car with those wing doors up.
It looks like when a seagull is on the ground and it's kind of bucking up at you a little bit and just doing like a really ungainly like waddle.
How do you think the players thought about these?
I bet they thought that they were silly.
I mean, Griffey loved his.
Sure, it was his idea.
It was his idea, the whole baggy shirt thing, which, by the way, they couldn't do the whole game because only the Mariners had their shirts out, and the manager for the Royals was like, that can give them an unfair advantage because with their shirts out, they were more likely to get hit by a pitch or to be interpreted as being hit by a pitch.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
So they made them tuck him later. But the Royals and lots of players seem to hate them. The Royals infielder, Shane Halter, said, "You got to be kidding. It looks like a basketball uniform."
Okay, yeah, I will definitely give him that. Especially with the Mariners, it definitely gave off. I'm going out to the basketball court after a hard day of work and just like hanging out with my bros.
Martinez himself called the uniforms gaudy, but he won an award for the best promo in baseball that year. And it was so fun and so well received. I mean, the Kingdom was packed that night.
Okay, so the players, not necessarily big fans of having to do it, but the average fan in general were pretty positive towards it.
Yeah, I mean, they sold a lot of tickets, and it was so popular that the next year, baseball decided to roll it out for every team. So that takes us to 1999. But this time, when we take a well-loved single-game promotion, we are going to give it over to a sponsor.
Oh, no, but that makes it lame.
Century 21, who had already purchased sponsorship rights for the Home Run Derby, was offered the opportunity to sponsor a series of games played by every team in the league, where instead of going forward to 2027, we could look forward to 2021.
That's past.
That's past, but it also is just a tie-in for
Century 21.
Century 21, so that's also lame.
When I think the future, I certainly think real estate.
So they invited every single team to participate. However, not every team wanted to participate.
We don't like having fun.
The Cubs, the Reds, the Dodgers, the Rangers, the Astros, the Blue Jays, the Expos, who don't exist anymore, and the Yankees said no, we're not doing this. Supposedly, Yankees owner George Steinbrenner was asked, don't you want the fans to be able to see what the Yankees uniform design will look like in 2021? Steinbrenner replied, with a good amount of wit, I would say, we're already wearing it.
Clever. Very good.
Also, the most accurate prediction in this episode. The Yankees jerseys have not changed. The entire process worked differently this time than with the Mariners promotion. A designer from Major League Baseball put together some presentation boards. Ultimately, though, the teams got to decide individually what they wanted to do. But the vast majority of these teams just took them, printed them, wore them. You can break down these jerseys into a few specific styles. So I'm going to show you a few. I'm going to show you the Angels.
Color. We have a return to color.
You can also see that it is big logo, tilted over a little bit, and on the back, it's kind of hard to see here, but shiny letters and vertical name.
And it's also in a futuristic computer font.
And that's the way that all of these are. I'm just going to very quickly show you all of these that are of this exact same style.
Everything is just big and tilted.
These are highly criticized for being very cookie cutter and very boring and very ugly.
Yeah, I mean, this was meant to be something that was kind of fun and experimental, and you sponsored it all up.
What's worse, I think, are the teams that basically did nothing different. The Braves just had the normal logo.
Oh, yeah, that looks just like a regular jersey. You've got kind of the, I guess, longer sleeve kind of thing that all the other ones have, where it's like a little cap sleeve.
Yes. So it's a pullover, which they weren't wearing pullovers at the time with the V-neck. And they have the vertical name on the back. But otherwise, the Braves, the Tigers, the Orioles don't look that different from what they normally are.
Oh, and the Orioles aren't even wearing orange. They're just wearing black. They look like the bad team in the Mighty Ducks.
They do. Most teams in the 90s wanted to look like the bad team in the Mighty Ducks. Every team started injecting black into their uniforms for no reason. The Phillies don't look that different, although I will say the Phillies on their sleeve patch produced an American flag with 60 states.
Ooh, okay, see, that's future thinking. That's let's think ahead to what would the world be like. That's what I want to see. Not just like let's do big logos sideways.
Yeah, I'm glad that they really thought about America returning to imperialism.
No, maybe they were just thinking about, some of the territories we already have actually getting to have voting rights.
Or Texas splitting up, which they are legally able to do. No, I completely agree. That's a lot of fun to think about. The Padres did this weird printed collar thing, which I don't understand. And I tried to figure out what those lines were even supposed to be, but nothing I found when I Googled it showed up.
It looks like tuxedo lapels.
It's weird.
Whoa!
The Diamondbacks did something interesting. They took their snake and wrapped it all the way around them. I like that because that's a little bit more of a bold choice.
Ironically, I would say of any of these, this is the most 90s design that I have seen. This is amazing. The color schema screams 90s. The pattern screams 90s. I would want this. I would absolutely wear this.
It is very good. The Athletics I think actually look more boring, but I do like the little 3D logo they gave themselves.
Sure, yeah.
The Cardinals looked pretty boring, actually, but they did update their logo to give themselves a metal bat and robot birds.
I was gonna say, are those robot birds? Okay, again, it's subtle, but they're at least thinking about the future. They're doing cool futuristic things.
You love seeing the little details.
Yeah.
The next two I think are really interesting because they thought, what are we going to be doing in 20 years? And they decided that what they would be doing is retro jerseys.
Okay.
And they were right.
Were they?
I mean, they weren't wearing this specifically, which has this huge retro logo, but the Twins do use this old style retro logo more now.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if it's them trying to split the difference and not want to do this, but kind of do it.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those where I want to do retro, so I'm gonna backwards rationalize why we're all wearing retro. Well, it turns out in the future, everybody just has this intense nostalgia, so that's why we're wearing stuff that looks like they're from the 30s.
The Red Sox were supposed to participate. They had jerseys printed for them, but a hurricane came through North Carolina where the production facility was, and so they didn't get delivered on time.
Oh, weird.
I left off one team for you, though.
Okay.
One team that decided to go all out and really felt the spirit of sci-fi for them.
I love it. I'm so excited.
I give you the Mercury Mets.
Whoa! Yes! The Mets understood the assignment.
As a teacher, you just get excited when one kid understands the assignment.
This is awesome. You got the little Mercury male, or no, sorry, that's like the female symbol, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you know what that symbol is?
So there's lots of astrological symbols. We are most familiar with the ones for Mars and Venus because we use them as synonymous for male and female symbols. The way I always remember the difference between the two is the symbol for Venus is the one that looks like it could be a hand mirror where you're holding it up. And the one for Mars and men always looks like it's a shield with a spear. So if you can't ever remember the difference in the male and female symbols, there's a little tip for you. So this looks like the one for Venus, but it's got a little swoop at the top. So I'm assuming that this is the astrological symbol for Mercury.
Yes, and it actually predates us thinking about them as astrological symbols. They were symbols for the gods.
Oh.
So this is a caduceus.
Oh, okay.
Which you know what that is. The two intertwined serpents. The more detailed version is often used for...
the medical symbol.
Exactly. But here you can see some older versions from Greek and Roman pottery.
Okay, so that's not like a head with a crown or horns on the top. That is the two serpents intersecting in like this infinity symbol. Today I learned.
The point of the podcast. You may notice in this very old pottery that I have that the cross is not there. That was added after the 11th century to tie it into Christianity.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
The Mets even went as far as to change the images on their Jumbotron to make them more sci-fi.
I love this. This is great. This is having fun. We're having fun. Thank you, Mets.
So you can see they gave them little Spock eyebrows.
Oh, they got the Vulcan eyebrows.
They made them green.
Oh, okay. So they are actually green. I wasn't sure if that was just the really bad television quality of the 90s.
So I agree. I think the Mets had fun with it. I think they look kind of horrible, but in a way that I enjoy.
Sure, I'm not a huge fan of the cap sleeve weird thing, but they got it. They really went for it. Sometimes it's super fun when people try really hard, even if it's ugly or awful or silly. What sucks is when people do the meh and put like the barest amount of effort in it. Like that's not fun anymore.
I so much agree with you. This is why we're married. The players hated these, though.
Aww. Womp.
Someone described them as pajamas designed by colorblind preschoolers.
No, we already saw the pajamas. That was the silk getup.
The Pirates pitcher Greg Hansel said it looks like Halloween came early. What's most interesting to me is the Mets pitcher Oral Hershiser, a little later in his career at this point, and he was coming up on a big number, 200 wins.
Wow.
And Oral Hershiser wanted to make sure he got that 200th win before this game. because he didn't want to be wearing that jersey for the ceremony.
Oh, do they have the ceremony immediately after the game for stuff like that?
They'll do a whole thing immediately afterwards for stuff like that.
Oh, and he didn't want that to be how he was immortalized?
Yep. He said, "We should have had a big top. If we can't sell the product the way it is, maybe we should give it a rest."
Wow. That's bold coming from a baseball player.
Rich Eisen from ESPN said, "I've seen them, you've seen them, the American people have seen them, and the vote is a landslide. These new futuristic baseball uniforms have got to go."
How often did they have to wear these again?
That's a great question. Each team wore them once or twice, really depending on their schedule, but the promotion lasted from June to September, so it kept popping up on people's radar throughout that whole season.
Okay, so your individual team that you were rooting for would maybe wear them once or twice and you wouldn't have to worry about it. But if you were just a general baseball consumer, you saw them all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you were a baseball commentator,
you saw them all the time.
So that I feel like that has to explain the vitriol coming from the commentators as opposed to from fans who wouldn't have seen them as often.
You are exactly right again. Alex, you are very smart.
I am so smart. Thank you for acknowledging that.
I saw a quote from someone in the MLB office who said, "You have a client who's paying a lot of money for this promotion, and on a local level, it's very well received. Attendance went up, and we're giving away premium items that were pretty cool. But then you turn on the radio or TV, and you have people talking about the ugly uniforms. And every once in a while, they drop in a Century 21 promotion. So anytime a client's getting that kind of publicity, that's not good."
Oh, no. I didn't even think about how anytime people are on TV talking about it and then they immediately have the sponsorship, it's not a good look for Century 21. I imagine they had to have been feeling pretty frustrated.
I'm sure that they did.
See, this is why I no longer go on the internet after I watch a show that I really like. That's why I stopped going on to subreddits for shows that I really enjoy, because anybody who is obsessed with anything is going to spend at least 50% of the time talking about how much they hate the thing, and it just gets so exhausting after a while.
And there's no lukewarm takes on this.
No, we're in America. There's no room for grayness in our black and white kindergarten world. Everything's got to be it's the best thing ever or it's the worst thing ever.
One of the things that I think is interesting is that MLB has always kind of made fun of this, but in 2018, the Mariners and the Royals recreated the game.
Did they really?
They actually brought it back. And the Mariners wore pretty accurate uniforms to the original promotion. The Royals did not.
Womp.
They actually tweeted, "And while the original uniforms from 1998 definitely made a statement, we'll pay homage to them in a more tasteful take on a futuristic uniform."
Okay.
And honestly, I don't think this is futuristic at all.
No. Oh, wait, this is the futuristic one?
Yeah.
No, that's just regular. That's just boring baseball.
The only thing that's really different to me are the caps. They put a big old crown on their cap, and then the batting helmet had a little scooped crown painting on it.
Like a cutout. Oh, I do like the batting helmet. It does look like, I get it as a little crown cutout kind of thing. The Mariners dude, I can't tell if it's just the angle or the sheer size of the biceps, but dude is pulling that off.
Yeah, and they wore, as much as they could, their shirts untucked.
Yeah, I feel like the sleeves were really what was kind of holding it back from looking cool. And so you take away the sleeves and you just full suns out, guns out the whole thing, and you can make it work.
So let's go over some specific predictions and talk about whether or not it was a hit or a miss.
Okay.
Teams wearing vests in current times in baseball.
Yes.
This is where Alex realizes that she doesn't pay that much attention when I make her watch a game.
No, but I watch, okay, so I watch baseball. I'm just not paying attention to their uniforms when I'm watching baseball. I've got the game on and it's playing and I'm doing other things and piddling around the house while the game's on. I'm not laser focused on the uniforms while the Jays are on.
They do not wear vests.
Okay, no vests. That makes sense.
Would teams change colors? The Mariners in their promotion did an entirely new color scheme. Would some teams change colors in the course of the next 20 years?
I feel like that's a reasonable prediction to make. I don't feel like it would be very many because I think that people get really married to their colors and their color scheme that they've got going on. But I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that some would overhaul their color schemes.
You're right. Several teams have done slight alterations. Largely, they have been deepening their colors or making them darker, but some teams have completely changed their color schemes, including the Florida Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Houston Astros, who went to like a brick red, but then they went back to their orange and blue. Would teams wear untucked jerseys and backwards caps?
I'm going to go with no.
No. But lots of guys do wear baggier pants. There has been a little bit of a comfort revolution, so I'm going to give this one a little bit.
Sure, but you bring up a point with the untucked shirts with giving an unfair advantage with things being called a hit against somebody who is batting. So I can see why they wouldn't allow something like that.
Yeah. Would players wear cleats that are not just black and white?
I would say yes. I do feel like there has been a trend with sports in general with getting funky with your cleats. Sometimes you see people going with red or pink, even like really bright colored things. So I feel like your cleats are kind of the one little spot of individuality that some players may think that they can get. So I 100%, I know I have seen this, so I can confirm changing up the color of shoes.
Yes. Would they wear large logos on the front of their jerseys?
Like the super sized ones? I don't think so. I don't feel like I see a lot of that. It's mostly just the text.
Right. Actually, very few of them have their logos anywhere except sometimes on their sleeve.
Right.
Which
like a patch.
Those are moving this season. I'll talk about that in a second.
Ooh.
Would they have weird capped sleeve things?
Definitely not. I will agree. Those were the lamest part of the suit.
Would they have vertical names?
No, I don't remember seeing any sort of vertical names. They keep it pretty standard on the back.
Does America have 60 states?
We do not. We can barely manage our 50.
So I want to take a second and talk about some of the trends that have been happening in baseball in these intervening years.
Okay.
In order to then maybe make a forecast myself about the future of baseball. One of the biggest things that has changed since 1998 and 1999 is logos. If you go back and look at jerseys back in the late 90s, there's actually not a lot of logos on them. But in the course of the past 20-some years, very slowly, there have been a lot of little additions. Going back before then, 1992, the MLB logo was added to the back of their caps.
Okay.
And then in 2000, they added them to the back of the jersey.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I recognize that.
This player even has it tattooed on the back of his neck.
Oh, wow. He's got a nice straight line going on there from the cap logo to the back of the neck barcode logo to the shirt itself. It's a little trifecta of ownership.
In 2005, the company Majestic started adding their logo to their pants on the back butt cheek, and then also on the sleeve.
Yeah, and you've got another MLB logo on the back of the pants, too.
I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that was added in 2000.
Okay, so you got like two different butt logos. You've got a between the shoulder blades logo, and you got a back of the head logo.
And then you have a top of the head logo. In 2016, they started adding the New Era logo to the side of their caps.
Like, what's up with all the addition of the logos? Like, we're going to forget that we're watching baseball, so we need reminders of the baseball logo?
In 2019, Nike won the jersey contract over Majestic, and they began placing their swoosh not on the sleeve, but right on the front of the jersey.
Okay, I mean, that doesn't strike me as odd, considering that most Nike shirts that you see have the swoop somewhere on the breast. I'm honestly surprised that it's that far up for Nike. It's normally...
that's just because the player is running. It actually sits a little bit lower.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's where I would expect a Nike logo to be on clothes.
It's where you might expect it, but I don't, they're the only ones who push it like that.
Oh, so when other people...
Nike's not a special separate thing. They're a company who's making a choice to make sure you see their logo.
Well, yes, but that's what Nike does. I am not gonna fuss at Nike for being Nike and doing their thing because that's what they do with all their stuff.
I am here to fuss at Nike because I don't think that one company should continue to push this the way that they do, because then every other company has a tendency to follow.
True, but Nike did win the contract, so they, knew that this would be a possibility whenever they let Nike do the uniforms, right?
I mean, I'm sure that baseball did, but the people...
But the fans.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm getting to.
Okay.
I don't think that this logo creep in every possible way is a positive thing.
Well, you also hate advertisements on uniforms in general, like with Major League Soccer and Premier League and all of that, right?
Which brings us to 2023.
Okay.
Beginning this year, teams are allowed to place a 4x4 patch on the sleeve of their players. Teams are moving their team logos from their sleeve to the opposite arm of their player. So if they're like, say, a right-handed batter, they're moving it off the right hand or the right arm, so that when they're batting, you can see this advertising patch super clearly.
Oh.
And let me tell you, all of these logos are ugly and incredibly boring. The Diamondbacks have Avnet, a global technology distributor. The Red Sox have Mass Mutual, an insurance company. The Reds have Kroger.
These are all very boring. How much does it cost to get the logo of my choice on a baseball player's arm?
It's going to depend on the team, but from reports that have been released, somewhere between $5 and $17 million a year.
Ooh, okay. So not getting a Mistopian logo anytime soon on a baseball player's sleeve.
No. For American sports, and as you rightly said, internationally it's different, but this was pioneered largely by the WNBA.
Really?
In 2009, the Phoenix Mercury made a deal with LifeLock, and they replaced their team name on their jersey with the LifeLock logo. And in the course of the last decade and a half for the WNBA, every team has gotten sponsors, and more they just start to cover their jerseys.
Oh, wow. This is looking like a NASCAR hood.
Yeah, and there's just no way to dial it back. Once it starts, that's just kind of the way it goes. The NBA in 2013, they started adding logo. Everyone starts. And it's a part of this larger encroachment of ads in our lives.
Sure.
It's not in any way, unique to baseball. And it's not even necessarily something that I think is always bad in baseball. Baseball has always had ads in the outfield.
Is it because we're used to those that we don't see those as being invasive, whereas we're not used to seeing advertisements on uniforms, and so that immediately makes us kind of rear back?
I think you are exactly right. I think we accept them because they seem normal to us. And I reject jersey patches because teams never had that, and it doesn't seem normal to me. But it's going to the kids.
True.
Well, I forgot to mention the Padres have Motorola.
Motorola.
Oh, I didn't even finish all of these, but the rest of them are pretty boring. The Mets have Presbyterian Hospital.
It's always the most boring things, too. That's my beef with bowl games, too. I feel like if I am stupid wealthy, and I just have all the money in the world where I can make an endowment to a university so I can get to name a dorm after me, or I get to name a sports bowl or anything like that. And all I choose is just the title of my company, or even more boring, my last name. Where's the gaiety? Where's the fun? Where's the joy in the Tostitos bowl? Sorry, I got a little soapboxy for a second, but it touched a nerve of a certain pet peeve of mine that I have when it comes to naming things.
Also, Tostitos are fantastic. Those are super fun. That was a terrible example.
I couldn't think there was a specific bowl that ECU got in one year that I thought was the dumbest thing ever, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, but it was just so stupid.
So
cut all that out.
So my prediction, MLB jersey of the future. It will have ads.
Sure.
It will probably have multiple ads. There will probably be sleeve patch ads. There will probably be a sponsor ad on the jersey replacing the team name in the future, because the NBA brings in a total of $250 million in sponsor ads each year. And more, the players, who are everybody's focus when watching the game, are the valuable ad real estate. I expect ads on the caps. I mean, really, all the equipment is already an ad, but I expect additional ads everywhere. And they'll probably be customized. They'll probably be green screen, because the stadiums already have green screen ads. And in the future, that can be based on the data that companies collect from your search history.
Oh, whoa. Okay. That did not even occur to me. Because you're right. They do have green screens with the advertisements now already. But if they're all coming out and they have select areas of their uniforms that are just green patches, then you can make them whatever you want. You can tailor them to individual market areas. And like you said, you can even tailor them to individual viewers if you have enough tracking data. That is dystopian as
All right, I want to thank my friend Matt Green for help with the research and planning of this episode. And if everything goes right, this episode will actually be dropping on his birthday. So happy birthday, Matt.
Happy birthday, Matt.
Well, everyone, that's our show. If you like Mistopian, please take a moment to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and also on Spotify. It's the biggest and best way you can help us make sure that this podcast has a future. You can follow us at Mistopian Pod on all major social media outlets, though we're mostly active on Twitter and Instagram. And if you have a Blue Sky invitation, hit us up.
Please, let us in.
I look forward to that reference being dated almost instantly. You can also check out our website, mistopianpod.com, to get more details about the sources and information used on our show. I'm going to post a link to a slideshow of all of these jerseys. Just remember, I don't own the copyright on any of these photographs. If you want to drop us a line, you can shoot us a DM on social media, or you can email us at contact@mistopianpod.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter and Instagram at IamTheBestAlex. And you can follow me, Patrick, on LiveJournal, where Matt and I are starting a blog called E6, where we point out mistakes in movies and television episodes which feature baseball. Until next time, remember, our world today is neither utopian nor dystopian. It's simply mistopian. Alex, what's your baseball uniform in the future look like?
I would really love a return to the old days. I'm really feeling inspired by the idea of like the turn back the clock, the retro. But I think that we should take it even further back. You know, when athletes were really in their prime. I'm talking ancient Greece, baby. I want to see men playing baseball just the way that God made them. Fully nude.
Cut.
No comment?
No, that's good though.